Welcome on into another edition of Love of the Star. It's another short week. It's Lions week. And I guess it's not short. It's a regular Thursday to Thursday. But it's that weird time in the schedule where the Cowboys are playing 3 games in, 12 days, and it ends here. And they have found a way to knock off the Eagles. They get a glorious Thanksgiving Day victory over the Chiefs. And now, can they complete the trifecta and beat a Lions team that embarrassed them at AT&T Stadium last year? It is Love of the Star, proudly presented by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And we love you. And thank you so much to the On Time Experts. You can call the On Time Experts. They'll come to your home the same day. Visit them, theontimeexperts.com. Click that book now button. You're going to pay less over time. They're going to correctly diagnose your issue and fix it right. Not a lot of that alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. Hopefully everybody had a good turkey day. But Brian, what's the aftermath? What's the fallout? What are you hearing? Kalen Carson, how's the health of this team after Kansas City? And Trayvon Diggs making his return possibly on Thursday night.
Yeah, the thing with Diggs is he's in that situation where he'll have to be brought off the injured list. And so they'll have to make one of the two moves they have remaining for that. We'll see what happens, with the health of some other players, or are they just going to have to maybe release somebody to get that done? The situation with Carson was a hamstring injury. The hamstrings, the calves, those injuries don't seem to be one of those situations that fix themselves quickly. So, yeah, it is going to be about, seeing if they, in fact, can get him. I haven't seen an injury report from yesterday. As you mentioned, they're on that week where they had a Sunday practice and all that. So my guess would be that they're going to monitor that. But, yeah, to get Diggs back on the active roster, they would have to make a corresponding move. And you just kind of wonder maybe if the situation might be that they switch Carson out if in fact that's the case. So we'll sure monitor that, and I'm sure in the next day or so we'll know exactly where Carson is, his availability. But Diggs will be eligible, is practicing, and hopefully they can get him involved in the defense this week against the Lions.
Be huge. I mean, Diggs, for everything that's gone on, when he's locked in, he's still one of the better corners in all of football. So, I mean, to get him back, and I think for him, it's an important stretch, not only to see what he can do in his future with the Cowboys, but you might be auditioning for the rest of the 31 teams out there, trying to put some good tape out and, plan for his future as well. You had Malik Hooker, who was in and out of the game against Kansas City yesterday. Brian Schottenheimer saying he was dealing with back spasms, but he should be good to go for Thursday against the Lions. And then Jadeveon Clowney, who was absolutely fantastic. When you talk about just not quitting on plays, relentless pursuit, he was rewarded with a couple of sacks, but he's been on the injury report. Yesterday was rehabbing with Britt Brown on the resistance cords during the media view of practice. He's been dealing with a neck issue, also a different injury. But, I mean, Clowney's one of these guys that's a veteran player. I feel like this time of year, probably everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah, and he's done a very admirable job. And I know initially myself, I was kind of viewing him as the 53rd player, and I didn't see, and maybe my expectations for him were probably too high, to coming in and trying to help and all that. But where he's been really good is playing the run. And Kansas City, he did have the couple of sacks, and that was just being relentless. That was just, Clowney getting knocked on the ground, getting up, Mahomes holding the ball, him running around, and then Clowney being able to close. So, my apologies to Clowney, because him and Donovan Ezraku have given them some stability there at the edge spot that, in the season, it was just the constant rotation of guys and really not getting out of it what they probably hoped for. I'm sure it helps, with the addition of Quinnen Williams, with Logan Wilson, and then also too, with the cornerbacks now being able to play, I think has helped. We talked about Hooker, and been some good play, been some poor play from the safety spot. I think that's still a position in the offseason they need to address, and when we get to the offseason, we'll address that. But, Yeah, they've found some things. Since the trade, they've it was really funny. They played a ton of zone coverage against the Raiders, about 89%, 90% against Philadelphia. And then against Kansas City, they completely flipped the script and play about 40% man, which is kind of unheard of, going against Patrick Mahomes. And, that's because you have to do those things because he kills you in zone coverage. So they're trying their best to adapt, with the guys that they have right now in that situation. So, I just got an update because I asked about Carson.
Yeah.
This situation. So he did practice full yesterday, and the plan is for him to do the same today. So, about the hamstring and stuff like that, I did not know. Like I said, it was one of those things where after the game, I was like told, well, we'll see what happens. But yesterday, he did practice full, and the plan is for him to do the same today as we're recording this on Monday morning.
That's great news. The other news that we got yesterday was an addition to the practice squad, and this was former Pitt Panther Israel Abanikanda, and that's actually a player I think we liked coming out of the draft a couple years ago.
Liked him a lot.
Pick. Yeah, tough runner, 23 years old, was with the Jets, played 6 games there, was waived, and then recently was with the 49ers and then on the Packers practice squad. But at 5'11", 215, Cowboys add him to the practice squad. And immediately I started getting asked, you probably might have as well, Brian, but like, what's this mean for Jaden Blue?
Yeah, I mean, what does it mean for Jaden Blue? What does it mean for Phil Maffa? What does it mean? You're in a situation, I think to me that, it's the one thing, the practice squad, and hell, I don't have a great answer for this one. I usually try to have a great answer, and I need to ask somebody in the organization, why. But the things I do know about with Blue is that they would like him to be more of a pro. They would like to. I thought it was a situation where he wasn't picking up stuff in the classroom, he wasn't carrying it to the practice field, and then it didn't allow him to play in the games. Just listen to people talk. Malik Davis and and our kid from Clemson, Maffa, they're doing things like kind of the right way about the maturity and all those things. So, but adding Abanikanda, he is a guy that I know myself. When you watch that Pitt tape, it is a downhill, powerful, run over you, finish runs. I mean, I really like that kid coming out of Pitt and his ability. Tony Dorsett holds all kinds of records at Pitt. Well, this young man was on all of them. I mean, chasing all of them, and so, I just was super impressed by his ability to finish runs, to be physical, to play downhill, to be tough. I mean, it was kind of a pleasure to watch him play. And there was some thoughts about, well, can they go get a guy like that? Can they find a guy? Can they maybe get him? Was he there was talked about he might be available, that kind of thing, for trades and stuff. So to get him on the practice squad, yeah, is this a send a message to Blue about, hey, listen, we're not messing around here anymore, but here we are, we're week 13, soon to be week 14. I don't anticipate, unless there's an injury to Davis, I don't see Maffa and I don't see Blue, dressing for your Dallas Cowboys, and adding a running back just makes things even more interesting from the aspect of, like, listen, we're going to keep bringing guys in here until, you guys decide that you want to be pro football players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that he hasn't found a home based on the play that we were able to watch coming out of Pitt there. But
hell, we might have been wrong about the kid, but I know watching him, like, there were a lot of runs where he was just running over people, running through the line. They don't want to tackle him at the end of a game. He's just, the safety's trying to hit him. Corners are trying to hit him, and he's driving himself into the end zone. Those are the things that I remember about the player when he was at Pitt.
Yeah, punishing style of runner. Certainly very, very physical and finished runs at a very high level. So, hey, it's another body. We'll see what happens with those two young kids. Maybe Maffa was a draft and stash, and you have him kind of redshirt in a sense. But it didn't sound like he was, from everything that you've been telling us, that he was probably going to be activated any time. I think we'll see what happens with Blue. Maybe it is just you're young, you're immature, and you have an off season. You learn how to be a pro. I don't think the Cowboys would just release him. I don't think they would just move on. But another body, more competition there at running back. And, hey, Brian Schottenheimer has stressed that, and he's really lived by it. And I think a great source of that is really what's been happening at offensive tackle. And I wanted to ask you, now that we had the recap, the post-game recap. Yeah.
If I could circle back real quick, and I just pulled up my notes about Anna Bandakanda. I just, and I was trying to remember some things real quick. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off track here. But 5'10", 216 coming out of Pitt. He's a compact built runner, has finishing speed, was a successful high school track athlete in New York. He runs with a purpose. He can break tackles with lower body power. Defenders bounce off him in the open field. He does a good job of keeping his legs moving, driving for extra yards, his vision to make cuts. He'll read the block, put the foot in the ground, and go. Plenty of snaps where the offensive line is pulling, and he works right in behind their blocks. That kind of fits into what Dallas is talking about. He tends to be a little bit more straight line than the wiggle guy. He can make the first guy miss, but is also likely just to run through a tackler. He catches the ball underneath routes, screens. He can be a problem in the open field to bring down once the ball's in his hands. Didn't seem to fight the ball at all to catch it. Very good down around the goal line. Is able to finish runs with power. Has a nose for the goal line. I said super productive player. So, yeah, here's a practice squad kid. I'm sorry, I went rambling on there with a report, but that's what I remember from the player that we saw. And I could say maybe he's a guy that's trying to brought in here to like, okay, let's kick the tires on it. Let's see with the season ending. Was this a guy that maybe you wanted to sign in the off season and you just go ahead and get him done, and then you work on, at the end of the season, that practice squad guys tend to kind of get into the mix, and you might hit on a guy. And you were asking me about an offensive lineman before I rudely interrupt you.
No, that was perfect. We needed that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were wondering, okay, what did you think of him coming out? And I think in my notes, I actually said, like, he reminds me a little bit of an Alfred Morris type of back. I think maybe a little bit bigger than Alfred Morris, but just going back and just looking at some of the notes that I had. But yeah, if you block it up, that guy's going to go get it. So, I mean, hey, you don't know what the future is going to be for Javonte Williams. Maybe he ends up being outpriced. So just try and get some people in your building that you think could compete for you.
That's exactly right. This guy could have been a guy that maybe when they're looking at the season ends and you start to sign guys for 2026, that like, listen, we had a good grade. I could follow back up and find out what grade they had on him, and let you know that in another episode. But this is a guy that to me, you get him on the practice squad, say you get him through the month of December, you got a feel for him. And all of a sudden it's like when the season's over, whenever that ends, then you just take your practice squad and you sign those guys for the following year. And now you've got one of your running backs, a guy that you probably felt pretty highly about, in the fold and ready to go for 2026.
So back to the tape, what did you think of Nate Thomas? And hopefully Guyton, possibly could be back for the Lions game. And I think if he's good to go, they'll rock with Guyton. But all in all, I thought Nate Thomas did a pretty good job against Kansas City on Thursday.
Yeah, Kansas City's had some problems with their pass rush, and they'll, if you talk to Fred Davis about Karlaftis and guys like that, he kind of feels like that they probably overpaid there. George Karlaftis is a very much a try hard, fight you, never stop. Those are difficult guys to play against because they might not have, and Karlaftis has got some pass rush ability. just Kansas City, just for whatever reason, sacks haven't shown up. They've had some pressures, but man, the pressures were light in that game. If you look across the board, usually Dallas will have a guy or two that has 4 or 5 pressures to his name. That wasn't the case in this game. Dak did a great job when he had to move around. The blitz pickup from Williams has been just outstanding this year. Matter of fact, the 4th down pass to Ferguson was a great blitz pickup by Williams in order to get the ball out. So, Nate, no pressures to his side. Where when he played right tackle against Arizona, when he had to fill in, it was a completely different story with the number of pressures and the number of drop back passes. And you were worried about that. We were worried like, oh, geez, can Nate actually handle this job? If he has to play, can he handle the job? I think he more than handled the job. I think he had, the opportunity to get ready on a short week and then go play football. And I think that was exactly what he needed.
Absolutely. And hey, I mean, you've got a guy that I think has clearly proven he's a starting tackle in the NFL. And that's great moving forward for whatever happens, left, right side. And we'll see what happens with Terrence Steele. But Nate Thomas, certainly in his opportunities outside of that Arizona game, to your point, he's made the most of them and looked really, really good. Love of the Star, proudly presented by the On Time Experts, the official AC heating and plumbing partner for your Dallas Cowboys. Make sure you're checking them out at theontimeexperts.com and click that book now button. It is starting to get into the winter months here. It's chilly. Make sure that heater is running well. The On Time Experts, if you have any issues, they're going to be the ones that you want to talk to. All right, you are listening to Love of the Star. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus, who is hanging out at Crown Global Media inside his facility in the war room there in his office. And he's got the proud LSU Tiger sweater on. Big day.
How about that?
For LSU. You got it done. You got Lane Kiffin. You got your guy. I'm sure you've been partying. I'm sure it's been a hell of a weekend for you.
Yeah, I think to me that we're the team that acts like we're really, really poor, but we're really not poor. We just throw millions of dollars around like, it's just nothing to it. But excited for Lane Kiffin. I know I was listening to Bobby Belt, our colleague on 105.3 The Fan this morning, driving into, as you mentioned, Crown Global Media, and Bobby was like calling Lane a fraud and all this stuff like that. And I understand. It's these things aren't easy. These coaching changes. I was part of one at LSU one time where our head coach Bill Arnsparger left to go be the athletic director at the University of Florida, and we didn't have a coach. I mean, we were here we are. We're having success and winning conference championships, and all of a sudden our coach gets up and leaves. And back then you really didn't have social media or anything to kind of complain to or anything like that. But yeah, it's this is a very, very messy part of the game. And my old teammate Verge Osbury, who's the AD at LSU, had a guy in mind. He had the support of the alumni base in order to spend whatever it needed to get the job done, even though we're paying another coach to not coach here anymore, a lot of money. But here we are. And I just will say this about Lane Kiffin. For whatever you want to say about him, you're probably justified. But I think Lane Kiffin is what you need to have in modern college football. You need to have somebody that is very savvy when it comes to dealing with players. You need to have somebody that understands how to spend NIL money, and you need to have a good eye for talent. And I think Lane Kiffin has done a good job. He's proven that over the years, that whether he recruits or however he works the transfer portal, the biggest mistakes we make in college football are the ones where you give money and those players don't show up. LSU had a $30 million payroll to go 7-5. That's not the best way to operate. There's probably a lot of teams around college football that are that way. I think it's so important to be able to have the ability to evaluate. That's why these teams are hiring these general managers. They're hiring these former scouts to be, to run the personnel departments. A guy like Mike Lombardi, a buddy of mine who's at North Carolina, they're hiring these guys to run these, but you have to, it's just like the NFL. You have to be able to spend your money on the quality player. and you have to be able to identify the player. And I think there's certain coaches, our friend Joey McGuire out there at Texas Tech, I think is one of those guys. He knows how to evaluate talent. And when you're spending money on that level, you have to be able to have the players to win. And that's Joey's put his team in the top 10 in the playoffs and all that. Lane Kiffin put his team in a position to, to have success in the playoffs, and for my sake, hopefully he can do the same for LSU.
Absolutely. And it does. I mean, I'm sure that it sucks for everyone involved, all those players at Ole Miss.
It does.
But I get it. It's a little bit, it's a conference rival. And I guess, from Lane, and who knows really what the truth is. Yeah. Lane has said the athletic director didn't want him to stick around. Yeah. So, not necessarily on him. Maybe if he did have his say, he would still be there and he'd see this thing through. Eric Morris in my alma mater at the University of North Texas, different, right? He's going to Oklahoma State, but he's sticking around. He's going to coach the American Championship game against Tulane on Friday night. And then if North Texas is able to win that, they'll be the Group of 5 representative, and whoever they play in the college football playoff, he'll see that through. And I think that's awesome. I mean, these coaches, they're put in terrible positions when it comes to, for them, hey, it's a great opportunity, right? You're getting a big pay raise. You're getting to go to a better school, but it is tough, like with the recruiting and the portal and all the timing of the calendar here. They can't wait around. You've got to kind of jump right into it. So college football has got to kind of figure that thing out. I don't know if there's a good answer for it, quite frankly, but it is a bummer for those involved at Ole Miss. But huge win for LSU.
Yeah, and we'll see how it all plays out. I now I'm on a mission to hope that Bobby Belt is completely wrong calling my head coach a fraud and stuff like that. So I can't really go after him because his allegiance is to the University of Texas, and I can't go after my son Bennett Broadus's. So even though that Bennett and I will be in Baton Rouge for the Texas LSU game this next year.
That is going to be an amazing moment and a great win for Bennett, getting to see Texas take down Texas A&M. We'll see what happens with that playoff. I don't know. That loss to Florida might kind of hang over them. All right, let's talk about these Lions real quick before we move into our mailbag. And they had, I thought at first this was a ball sack of epic proportions, Brian, but it was true. Frank Ragnow was going to try and rejoin the Lions. He retired at the beginning of the season, 4-time Pro Bowl center, but he failed his physical. So he is not going to play for the Lions this season, as the team announced. He's got a grade 3 hamstring strain that would keep him from playing. So at 29 years old, it was in June. I mean, it was pretty shocking when he decided to retire. One of the best centers, if not the best in all of football right now. Would have been a huge boost to them. I don't know that he would have been available yet to play against the Cowboys. But this is a Lions team now that is directly ahead of you in the wild card standings, as they're sitting at 7-5. The Cowboys at 6-5-1. And the last few weeks, not quite the same Lions team. I mean, they battled against Green Bay. They kept coming back within 3, but the offensive line maybe not quite as dominant as we've seen in the past. Certainly, though, this is going to be a great test for the Cowboys' run defense. I mean, this is the best rushing attack and certainly the best running back that they're going to have played since the Quinnen Williams edition. No disrespect to Ashton Genty or Saquon Barkley, but Barkley's just not at the height of his powers right now. Jahmyr Gibbs is arguably the best runner in all of football. So this is going to be interesting to see what version of this Lions offense do you see as they've finally shown. Maybe they are missing Ben Johnson. Maybe they are missing Frank Ragnow, as they used to just be all about bully ball. They can still run the football well, but this version of Detroit, what's kind of standing out to you?
Well, I went back and just this morning before our show went back and just watched their sacks. I was curious how people were getting after them. And then I had to come on and do our show with you here. And then next thing I want to do is look at their 10-yard runs. And you're absolutely right. I want to see where they're at. But, the one thing that I've noticed with their offensive line has struggled with some protection. I think it was 29 sacks is what I saw that I got to see. And, a lot of it had to do, and this is from the start of the season through where we're at today. But they've really had some troubles, at various times with like the exchange stunts and stuff like that. When people have like moved on him. And Minnesota did a great job of getting after him. Green Bay, great job of getting after him in the first week of the season when it came to the movement and stuff and just making this team have to be able to like pass stunts. They've had some problems. They've had some problems with the backs on some of the blitz pickup stuff. Teams that have gotten Goff to hold the ball tend to cause him some problems. He usually wants to take the ball and get rid of it. But when you could clearly see when he has to hold or make a second or third read and it's not there, he's in trouble. They've had some trouble with their protection, going through and just watching it. So maybe Dallas could take advantage of some of those things. In the middle, they've had some problems. You mentioned it with the center spot. Like say the left tackle has been a problem. So yeah, it's not the same team it was when Dallas played them last year.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with an injury. They
Ankle,
lost Sam Porta to the season as well with that back. So who knows? I mean, Jameson Williams is coming off a really good game against Green Bay, and he's a burner, certainly can present challenges down the field. But, I mean, they might be down. They definitely will be down one, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, we'll monitor that. I'd be pretty surprised if he plays on Thursday night. I'm sure he's going to try and go based on this time of the season. It's a must-win game for both teams. But Isaac Teslaw is an interesting wide receiver they drafted out of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Big kid, man, 6'4".
Yeah.
I mean, I liked him. You could see the talent. The problem was at Arkansas, I think he had like 14 catches. Everything went to Andrew Armstrong, the DFW kid on the other side. And the Arkansas offense wasn't exactly incredible a year ago, but he has showed some flashes now, so he probably would get an increased role if indeed Amon-Ra St. Brown can't go. And Tom Kennedy coming out of nowhere, they pick him up off the street, had a big game on Thanksgiving as well. So, hey, this Lions team, this has become quite the rivalry the last few years, dating back to, hey, I'm reporting eligible. Cowboys are able to outlast them in that game a couple years ago. And then last year, the Lions really running it up on the Cowboys, trying all the trick plays. So this one now in Detroit, last couple have been at AT&T Stadium. But the Cowboys now, man, based on how they're playing at the line of scrimmage, specifically on the interior of both sides of the football, they can play with anybody right now. And Quinnen Williams, it's just different. It's different now the way you look at this defense. When he is on and off the field, you can tell when he is not in there. But he has this team, I think you can look at them and you just kind of have a different perspective on what they could possibly accomplish now because of that guy in the middle.
Yeah, he clearly makes others better. There's no question about that. And the addition, it's helped Kenny Clark. It's helped Oso Digizua. It's helped Donovan Ezeraku. It's helped Logan Wilson. It's helped Kenneth Murray. It's helped, just go down the line. I mean, it's a different presence on defense now with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that, and even getting Diggs back this week, that will be something that will help. If Diggs is locked in to what needs to be done, Diggs can help this team. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that are like, Broadish, you're blowing smoke up our ass again. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to be here. He's always banged up. Yeah, he's hurt. He is hurt. And you wonder sometimes if, where the toughness factor is on him. It's kind of comes and goes. But if he's locked in, he could clearly help you. I know that Clarence Hill asked the question about him playing safety yesterday. It was something that I know that I was kind of interested in. And, Brian Schottenheimer said, no, he's a shutdown man. He's a shutdown corner. And so they're not going to entertain that thought. It sounds like, I know maybe he, but to me, if you had all your bodies available, he might be an interesting guy to play at free safety just because of his ball hawking skills. That was something I wasn't trying to play fantasy football. It was just from a scout's perspective, I was thinking, how do I get my best guys on the field? If I could get a guy back there in the middle of the field that knows how to read coverages and knows how to react and has the ball skills to go get it, that's what I was thinking about right there. Because I've clearly kind of, with the whole thing with Hooker and Wilson and those guys, and we saw Bell play a lot the other day, and he wasn't terrible. But they desperately need to upgrade that position, and I think having a guy that could be a true free safety could make a difference in the middle of that defense.
Couldn't agree more. And Diggs saying he's 100% better. So we'll see.
Well, let's hope he mentally is. That's
right.
I mean, it was the opposite knee. Is it going to be a situation where we're going to get him in games? And things weren't going great. But things weren't going great. And we'll I think they asked him a question about the whole thing that happened in the house and his place, and he didn't give an answer really what happened. So I'm sure that'll eventually come out. Somebody will report what happened with that whole situation with the concussion and how this all kind of started. So but they need him, but he also needs to deliver for the team.
Right.
He needs to show up for this football team is what he needs to do.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcast. All right. Let's dive into our Dean Julia mailbag. And we got a couple of questions here we'll hit quickly. And then we'll put a bow on this one. We're getting you set for Cowboys and Lions. And you look just right now at the standings. How about the Bears at 9-3? Currently the number one seed in the NFC. They've got the tiebreaker over the Rams based on best win percentage in conference games. Rams, the 2 seed. Eagles, the 3 seed right now at 8-4. Tampa, the NFC South division leader. And then that cluster, I mean, it's going to be tough here in the wild card. Seattle at 9-3. Green Bay at 8-3-1. San Francisco at 9-4. And then you've got Detroit and Dallas, 7-5, 6-5-1. And how about the Panthers are right there at 7-6, and they own the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Cowboys as they kind of hover. So, I mean, you look at this NFC wild card, the Cowboys need to take care of business, Brian. They've just got to win games, worry about what they can control. But it does look like it's going to be very challenging to sneak into one of those wild card spots. Your best bet might be an epic 2023 S collapse as your game and a half back of the Eagles to try and win this division.
Yeah, to me, the best path is find a way to win the division. Just like you said, take care of all the business you could take care of, and hope that Philadelphia just completely falls apart here. They're teetering on that right now. I mean, they've got a game Monday night. Dallas, of course, playing Thursday. Philadelphia have a game Monday night in Los Angeles with the Chargers. We'll see what happens with the Chargers with the quarterback situation with the hand and all that, and how that all plays out. But yeah, the Eagles are reeling right now. Boy, it'd be nice if Dallas could get on the run. Philadelphia completely fall apart, and Dallas find a way to win this division, and you get a home game and then go from there. But like I say, it's the teams ahead of them that, in the wild card situation. People were trying to explain to me, I need to look at the schedule really extensively and get an idea. But, they're talking about those NFC West teams all play each other and stuff like that. And so you'll have some games too, where, you got some games still in the NFC North that need to be decided.
Sure.
So that's kind of where, the focus will be, is if you have to. But yeah, you're in a mode right now where, honestly, I don't think you can lose. I know people say, well, maybe you could be. I don't know if 10-6-1 does it. I don't know if 10-6-1 does it. I really don't. But I think the best path would be just find a way to go on a tremendous heater here. Win these games, finish out the schedule. If you can find a way to win them all and win this division, that would be, to me, probably that'd be the best path right now.
Well, we got a question from Robert, or excuse me, Mike. He said, "Look, let's just say the Cowboys do get past Detroit and they get a win.
Okay,
who do you think does pose the biggest threat the rest of the schedule?" The Chargers game scares him a little bit from Mike, but I mean, look, this is a team that lost to Arizona, and they're very, very different now. But I mean, you just saw it with Carolina beating the Rams. I mean, the Rams looked like a juggernaut. I think you're probably right, Mike, in your assessment. The Chargers would probably be the best team remaining on the schedule. You've got Vikings at home, Chargers at home, at Washington, at New York to close it out if you're able to get by Detroit. All games that are very winnable. Out of those four, I would say the Chargers the biggest challenge. But I mean, look, the Commanders battled the hell out of the Broncos last night.
I sat there last night thinking, like, Marcus Mariota playing quarterback, and God bless them. If they throw that ball up over the top, that's a win. They beat Denver at home. Marcus Mariota did a brilliant job to get him in a position to win that football game. Tip of the cap. I know you're 3-8, Dan Quinn or whatever, and you got to go for it there, and you did, and good for you. But Marcus Mariota, if you just put a little air under that ball, that is a walk-in 2-point play. And so, unfortunately for the Commanders, they don't get it done. But it would be very Cowboy-like for them to have to, they win all, they get all the games they need, and then they get to the final two where the Commanders might not be playing for anything, or the Giants. But there's a certain level of pride that you have when you're a team that's struggling, and if you knock somebody off late to keep them from going to the playoffs, there's some pride to that. And so those division games are never easy. They're never easy because they're being played probably in some pretty cold conditions. You never know, but I think you're better equipped to play now against against these teams in these cold conditions, because you do have the ability to run the ball with Williams. Absolutely. Dallas will run the ball, and no matter who it is, Dallas will find a way to get 116 yards. They'll find a way to get 116 yards in a game. And so, or they'll get more if they, but they are not a team the Carolina game, they got 31 yards. And Carolina shut them down. And the offensive line wasn't healthy like it needed to be, like we currently see. But Dallas is better equipped to play. To be honest with you, I think the home games I'm not so much worried about the home games. I am worried about a Jackson Dart or somebody like that. Sure. Just, you never know. A block punt, block field goal, tip ball, you never know about playing these games at the end of the season like this, especially division games.
Absolutely. I mean, these teams know each other well. Okay, let's get to Robert. Not to jinx him before he goes up against Aiden Hutchinson. But what do you think about Terrence Steele right now? Has he improved in pass protection? Robert says it feels like it's been a minute since he noticed him giving up a ton of pressures. I think you always give us the next gen stats immediately in the post game show, which is awesome. And I do think maybe it was 0 pressures against Philly.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
But I think he did give up. Was it 2? Did I hear you say 2 against Kansas City?
2 against Kansas City. Yeah. They've had some moments where they've been, listen, Steele is Steele. I mean, he's going to have moments where in the running game he is going to be an absolute weapon. And then there's going to be moments where he's a pass protector. He's going to be too soft. He's going to get driven back, or he's going to get a holding or some kind of call. I mean, he is who he is right now. I think the last couple of weeks, though, or the last 2 times that they played, he's been a much better pass blocker, especially against the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, it's he's going to – they always have their hands full. I mean, these guys, they always do, but – it does help to have one of the better quarterbacks in the league when it comes to mobility, and they're like buying that second chance and throwing the ball out, getting the ball out of there. And then you have with Williams is that guy that kind of cleans up the mess if somebody misses a block. That's a big plus too.
Yeah, I mean, can you find a way to run the football against Detroit? And you got to be confident that they can. I mean, the Lions do have Aleem McNeil, who's a really good player in the interior there. But you saw Green Bay have some success. And then, the way Pickens and Lamb are playing right now, and it was awesome to see CD have that bounce back game.
Yeah.
I mean, fans can be fickle. And my gosh, I think I was telling you when we were leaving the studio like last week, it's amazing how quickly people turn on these players.
Yeah.
CD Lamb, who, when you look at just fastest to 7,000 yards in a career. I mean, he's amongst a short list of some elite wide receivers.
Yeah.
He's been super productive. Struggles in 2 Eagles games this year, and it's like, get him the hell off the roster.
Sure.
So, George Pickens, though, oh man, what he's doing right now, he's playing at a super, super high level. That's the one thing I meant to address before we close out here. He did not start the game on Thanksgiving. And I think, what was that? He was just late again, missed a meeting or something along those lines.
George is having some problems. He needs to watch for Christmas if anybody's interested.
Des Bryant like, right?
Yeah, he sometimes kind of shows up when he needs to show up.
We'll get that watch for him.
Nothing criminal for the young man. But he tends to kind of show up when he needs to show up, and so he shows up on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays a lot. But there are things that they're dealing with right now that it's kind of happened to him in the past. So
we'll just get him. We'll work on that watch for you, George.
I'd be happy to drive. I'd be happy to drive him to work every day if it meant him.
I know you would.
Being on time.
And I know we got a lot of Uber and Lyft drivers that listen to Love of the Star, and they'd raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'll take care of you, George. I'll make sure you get to where you need to be."
Just let me know, George, what time you have to be there. We'll be there.
Well, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and thank you to everybody that makes Love of the Star a part of your day, however you're consuming it. Maybe you're working out, maybe you're just in the car cruising around, you're cooking dinner, whatever it might be. We love you. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and downloading, and always listening here as we get ready for Cowboys and Lions. Another big one. This team has now put themselves in the hunt. They're in the hunt right now. They're in the hunt graphic, Brian. This is an exciting time as we get into December. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus. We'll be back for another edition of Love of the Star. Until then, hugs and hand pounds, everybody.